All right. Welcome back, party people, for another wonderful New Ogden Cinema podcast.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So I've seen it all over the internet, and I know maybe it was in Deadline, it could have been in Vanity. I don't remember all of them I saw it on, but I know you've been making the rounds in the news, so and it wasn't about the fire in LA, so that's
No,
always refreshing.
and now I've been promoting it pretty heavily. Well, first off, tonight we have our unofficial sponsor here. I got my coffee mug, good for both coffee and beer. Jason, you want to tell them where they can get
Yeah,
a beautiful mug like this?
go on to Great White Pottery on Facebook and all of your dreams can come true. Mine sure have.
Um, yeah, no. So we actually just spent this last weekend at the Utah Film Festival, which is now I guess retitled as the or rebranded as the Utah International Film Festival. Um, Run by Warren Workman, who we've known for, no, or at least known of as an acquaintance for, well, the
15 years,
festival
I
this
think.
year was his 14th year, and
Yeah,
we were acquaintances with him before the festival, so it's probably been 15 years or so.
yeah.
Um, and uh, and for various reasons, we've never gone to the festival, but also at the same time we've never been accepted into the festival either. So, uh, probably probably depends on the type of content, I guess, that we create and what we push out there.
To be fair,
And
Ryan, if you have a better script, which
if
you
I had
did,
a,
then you get accepted. I mean, the quality of what we were putting out at times was written by this guy. So, congrats and hats off. That's awesome.
no, thanks. Yeah. No, it was so we. Having said that, like it is a festival. The submissions for this coming year, I've already looked at it, and it's not as category heavy. Like it has been in the past, the festival, and I'll be fine with openly criticizing it, where it's like if you want to be considered for best actor, best actress, or best supporting, or whatever, you have to submit to each individual category,
Hmm.
which can be a budget breaker, especially if you consider the fact you might not get accepted. And there's been a time where I've submitted a feature film and it did not get accepted. Um, so so the submission we went for was best female filmmaker, and because Brandy, my wife, directed the movie, she also wrote the screenplay for it, and Danielle and BJ and I helped kind of curate the story. But but it got accepted, and so it's like a 5 day event. It starts on like a Wednesday, goes until a Saturday. Um, One a couple of great things. I think the production value is really well done for a festival. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people there. I've been to some festivals where they have no red carpets. I've been to some where they don't roll out the red carpet until the last day. This one has the step and repeat and the red carpet out for the full experience. So that's how
Awesome.
it makes it easy to get a lot of pictures and kind of do some of the interviews of ourselves and whatnot, um, for our social campaign and our own promotion, things like that. And then Saturday, so our movie screen had a lot of laughs with that. And the block that we were actually the block that we screened. It's like a 2 hour block for. There's like several different blocks throughout each of the days, but and the one that we screened it was on Friday. There's quite a few good films that were in there, and there's a lot of times in festivals, and this where it's like some of them are such duds, and you're just like get it over with. Since like a 6 minute movie feels like 4 hours. Um, but no, there's some really good ones. There's a movie. It's called Once More Like Rain Man, and it has some cast people that like you would recognize. Like I don't know the guy's name. I say recognize, but then I don't know his name. He was in Breaking Bad. He was one of the there's like the skinny Pete guy, and there's like another dude, and it was the actor who was like the other dude. Um,
Okay.
and he has a unique voice to him, and then um but it was once more like Rain Man. It was is the girl who it's about a girl who's an autistic girl who is trying to get roles and acting roles in LA, and she goes to audition for them, and they're all autistic characters, but the roles that they want they want autistic, like Rain Man autistic, I would say. I was gonna use a different R word, but like Rain Man autistic, and she's not that. She's autistic, but they're kind of like, but what's your like your autistic superpower? Like, can you count things when can you count toothpicks on the ground? Can you do this? And she's like, no, like, but she's autistic, and so it's actually written by this girl who's like probably 18, and then the director is also a woman who directed it, and she's autistic as well. It was really well done. So our film was playing in those in like these. So that one's obviously everybody on there was a SAG actor, and it was shot, I guess, during the strikes and other stuff. But um, production value was really high. So we were really placed in there with some good movies. That being one of the examples. And and then the last day, the Saturday night. Yeah, I've heard that people have kind of called it the Oscars of Utah. I think it's more like the Golden Globes of Utah, but in the sense that there's a sit down formal dinner, a black tie event, but the production value is really good, and the way that they did the nominations and awards was put together really well. I think that's organized, and it was a good event overall. We didn't win, but we were nominated, and for best female director or best female filmmaker. So Brandy got the nomination, um, and you know sometimes the win is also connecting with all the other filmmakers and networking. As you know, you've gotten a lot of film festivals, and so part of the win is you know networking and building new relationships and kind of like rekindling other ones. And so, you know, even cast members of Frankencock were there, and cast members of Married and Loving It were there, and other films that we've made in the past. So it was just good to kind of resync with a lot of other people and meet other festival directors, agents, kind of get a chat about, you know, maybe how to find some financing, things like that. So it was a good event.
Awesome.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So
Very cool. Hmm. That's I mean, it's unfortunate you didn't win, but at the same time, like we've talked about for like years, one of the biggest biggest things I think I maybe took for granted earlier on was networking at some of these events and meeting other people. I mean, in the last couple of years, like doing that more with the screenwriting and whatnot has been awesome, and I see a lot more value in it these days. And I wish I would have. I don't know. I wish I wouldn't have had my Rain Man superpower prevent me from being more social at some of those events without, without just sticking to the click, as can happen at times. But that's no, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that it went well. And honestly, like, I, I mean, we've both been to a lot of smaller festivals. One of these days the big one will hit. But until then, like seeing some of those films, like there's been times where yeah, you see movies that you're like, man, you're jealous of them. You're like, I wish I would have done that. And I mean, a good portion of them also are. I don't know. It feels like it's somebody who wants to get into Hollywood to make money and doesn't maybe really love filmmaking as much, and so they're
yeah,
just like, I have an idea, and there it is. And it definitely was an idea, and it definitely was a film, but whew, it's a can be a little rough.
well, and there was a panel that we went to. Lucas Hardy, who was the editor on my feature film, he ran the panel on post production, kind of like what to do, and there was along with him was like a director for a feature film that Lucas had edited, and a couple of the other sound production people and things like that. And I didn't see their movie. Maybe it's incredibly good. They were honest; it's a family friendly movie, and I think that's why and they're sitting on like a couple different distribution deals. So on one hand, it's like good for them, but on the other hand, is um, there was a comment that Brandy made to me before we left for the festival. We were chatting about some things, and yeah, she's like, you know, she's like, you take a lot of risks in your movies. He's like, which is good. And I said, and it was kind of said, kind of like, you know, and I said, you know, I'm gonna take that as a compliment, actually. I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Like, so, you know, because like. Yeah, I don't know how you feel about your feature film, but I know that mine, I didn't necessarily make it with the intent of finding the distribution. I more was just set out to make a goal to make a movie and make a movie kind of like that was good with me, but I knew that it wasn't like a mainstream pop kind of thing. And but that that has its downturn. Like I said, there's another filmmaker there who's sitting there chatting about how they have they're sitting on two different distribution deals. I can't speak for their movies; I haven't seen it, but it did seem as though it was kind of like it's like quirky comedy. That's good family friendly stuff. And I will say that about the Utah Film Festival, it was um, pretty light on the booze, as in there was none. There's none to be found. And so, uh, you're a block away from BYU, and so it's fairly fairly conservative values to a certain degree. I think that's what we mean by like when you take certain risks and whatnot in film, and that's more of like a Utah problem.
Yeah.
I can't speak for your area, but it does. Um, yeah, I mean, when I made Marion Loving It, we put in the casting call. There was gonna be a lot of cursing, and I did have people who called who were like, "Man, I like this. I like the script. Do they have to curse?" And I don't curse in real life, so I just wanted to know if I have to curse, and it's just it's part of the gig, man. So
I mean, for those who have never lived in the great state of Utah, there are a lot of wonderful things, and there are a lot of wonderful people. So I'm not going to shit on the state at all. However, there is however, it's not even a like hell with Utah. It's just there's a dominant religion, and with that comes different challenges and social norms. And as you've heard from us in these many fine podcasts and see in our Instagram, Facebook channels that you're going to like and subscribe to, that you know we're pretty average, but we're not really church friendly, and that tends to be a deal breaker for some. And hey, it is what it is. Like if you're willing to do things, and we've had several films where it was like, hey, can we not do this? And in some ways, like we made concessions at times, like or even we made a movie about a shared experience, and it does involve like a homeless person, and there's references to God and whatnot, and it wasn't a like a preachy movie, but it was funny because in a lot of ways, like it kind of was like the most acceptance we had there for a half minute because they're kind of in that realm. And then, as Ryan spoke earlier, his film Frankencock is not a very family friendly film, but a fun one that you should also watch. And so, if you've never lived in the state of Utah, it can sound a little interesting. It is,
it is,
and
yeah.
um, I won't say where I work, but I won't lie. I walked into the office on a Tuesday, and as I was sitting down to work at a desk, I looked over at the cabinet and saw Pabst Blue Ribbon Tall Boys in the cooler, as well as like Smirnoff Ice bottles, and I went, I do live in a different place now, because that would not fly in Utah.
In Utah, you can be on your unpaid lunch break, and if someone sees you with a beer or in a bar, you're gonna go like, we're not gonna talk about this, right? Like even though, um, but I mean, I no no no. It's not to say that I don't love living in Utah, and not that I don't
No,
love the
yeah,
people either. Like I live in Ogden, and it's a wonder. I love Ogden. I'm a big is it- I there's a lot of art going on right now in Ogden, and I would be happy to consider myself as one of those pieces, having hosted the Ogden Big Lebowski Festival and then being a local filmmaker in that area. There's another aspect to it though, because there's been a time where there was so many people who were indoctrinated in that religion, they kind of forget sometimes that some of us aren't, and
yeah.
the values that that religion has, sometimes they kind of like. So I sell a hot sauce called Tasty as Fuck, and fuck is spelled with PH, and I put the table on the street at a farmer's market, and I'm wondering to myself like, how's this gonna work? Like, yeah, there's also places where when they sell the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated at Walmart, they actually put a slip cover in front of it so you can't see people in bikinis. But mostly I get a lot of what I mostly get is a lot of people point at the name, the hot sauce name, and then they laugh. They go like, "Oh, that's funny. That's really funny." Some people even buy it for the name. They'll be like, "Oh my God, you got it just for the name, just for the name." There's been some people who were even saying like, "Oh, I'd buy it, but the F word," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's spelled with PH. It's like the F word that God can't see." And like, oh, and then they buy it, right? Or they'll say like, "I'll buy it, but I got to keep it at the office because I can't take it home." And um, Brandy and I were looking at getting our hot sauce into a local store, and one of the questions that came up is like, okay, about your name, but what if the kids see it? What if the kids see it? And so it's just interesting dynamic. Is like, and you can kind of already tell right there. It's like, not no judgment against Mormons, but you can already tell right there. It's like that was a giveaway. Like that was a giveaway when you go somewhere and all the movies are that were selected. Nothing's got that edge in it, and everything's got that, that just got that core, good uplifting value in them. Just that deep, just right here. Yeah, you're at one of those festivals. So it was a good festival. Good festival. Don't get me wrong, but it was. There's other festivals where it's like a cash bar at least. Yep, you're having a formal dinner. It's a black tie dinner. Just a cash bar. You know. Hey, if those who don't want to drink it, they don't have to go get it. But it's that area. So, anyways, that didn't stop me from going to the grocery store next door and buying a 6 pack and drinking it under the table. But
Well, meanwhile, in in the great state of Washington and Seattle, visiting the Satanist market last weekend, and no, it's it's just a different vibe. I just wanted to paint a picture for those. Like, again, I know, like, especially Chaz. Chaz, I know you didn't grow up in Utah, but you learn the ways, so I'm proud of you. Um, but just so you guys understand, when we're talking about the festival, like, really, like, great people, a lot of fun. We've worked with some amazing people, that Ryan was talking about in some of our past feature films. But I can understand, like, where, yeah, some of my movies where, Santa is inspired by Brian De Palma, and, Silent, Silent Night, Deadly Night, all those fun movies. There's just not a place like when we did that film. For we specifically made Lonely for the Holidays for a Christmas horror festival, and I thought that meant like actual Christmas horror, and we got called out not by name but by content, where they were like, somebody's Santa rape fantasy. I was like, hey, he's talking about us, but that's not really what that is. Uh, it's more, hey, and then they're like, and then all the family friendly fare. I'm like, well, that's not really my fault. You accepted me, and I think we still won. We still won.
Uma's makeup effects in that one.
Yeah, best makeup
Yeah,
effects. Yeah, we
yeah.
did some rad shit in that movie, but yeah, it's not too late. I know Christmas is past, but Lonely for the Holidays is the gift that keeps on giving year round. So.
Available on YouTube. No, and I think that's what. So at the last, I think the last two short films that I've directed have been a Wolfman who, it's when the woman's on her period, and then as soon as he turns into a dog, he starts humping her, and then I made Frankencock, and there's a minute there where it's like not a bad rap. I like the rap. Don't get me wrong, but there was kind of like the like, well, and when we're sitting in like an inner circle of certain people, and they're kind of like we're talking about movies, and the next movie we want to make is like, yeah, but Ryan wouldn't do it because it's not edgy enough. It's like, hey, not every movie I do has to have a wiener in it, okay? Like a big puppet wiener, all right? You do. It's like that joke, you fuck one sheep, you know, and like you're just called a sheep fucker for the rest of your life. And I mean, I have won more awards for that cock movie, but for Frankie Cock than I have any. Never won Best Director for Married and Loving It, but I did for the Frankie Cock. So, um, But and so I was kind of had to remind, it was like, hey man, there were short films that we were doing a long time ago that were about relationships, that were about sisters that were having problems and arguing. That was about intermarital affairs that were happening in short films, and nobody died, and there was a lot of other things. Um, so it's like when we're talking about Scorsese, and people are like, he's just known for doing gangster movies, and it's like he had like 40 movies, like there's like five now that are mafia movies, like but there's a ton of them where he goes into Asia with and does like Kundun or something or um anyways. So and I think there's also a time and a place. So with some of the other horror stuff that we did, there wasn't really a limitation put on us, and I think that we would have met that limitation. Same festival director, but for the Carbon County Shortcuts Film Festival, we were specifically told, hey, it's got to be within PG-13. And
Yeah.
knowing that, because Con Air, we made a parody of Con Air and Forrest Gump, but Con Air is rated R. But knowing that, we knew the limitations, and so we put in. We have one F word, but I think though, I think that I would like to think though that because of Frankencock, there became a need to go, hey, so that we're clear on what the rating probably should be for everybody. Just moving forward, and but that's how you change things. That's how you.
Is that
That's
so?
how
Is
it
that the
changes
new
comes.
rating going forward all over, or is it was it just for the one festival?
Um, it's probably just for the one actually. So there was an attempt to do another horror fest, but it was happening right after the Carbon Shortcuts thing just had ended,
Mhm.
and then there was a Moab festival in between the same festival the director was hosting, and then I don't know if he actually did the horror one. I don't think enough people signed up for
Gotcha.
it. There was some parameters that even I was having a hard time with. That it was, and it's okay. You got to shake it up every year. I totally get that. Like the year
Yeah.
before when we did Frankencock was like 3D. And so this time around, it was going to be like horror musical or something like that. And I had an idea before those parameters came out. I had an idea I wanted to do an Invisible Man short. I didn't have any kind of way of like making it like super fucked up or anything. so I just so I just had like kind of a regular Invisible Man idea. but
Are you sure? Because with your mind, I
yeah,
got.
I was really working on it though. I was really trying to figure out where the rape scene was gonna come into play in the story. But then
And
the
the
part of it,
Invisible Man says, "I don't know,
I
but
don't know.
not sure." It's
Yeah, you know. Now that we're saying it, I'm starting the image the it's coming to mind. There should be a part where this chick's being face fucked by the Invisible Man. I can at least do that part. I can at least have a moment like that for a second, where it's just um.
so,
All right, okay. See, I knew there's a reason why I held off on that one for a minute. I just had to find the right edge to it. But um, anyways, but I did write it and we didn't do it, but it's there was there's a small goal there that was like maybe try to do all the different silver screen monsters, but in some kind of like twisted way or whatever. But anyways, that's outside of the Utah Festival and the other stuff. Speaking of dark and twisted, I heard you saw Nosferatu.
yeah, man. I I'll I'll say this. Like, I think it's Robert Eggers or Edgers, however you say his name.
Yeah, I'm not 100%
I
either.
well, I feel like it took me forever to get Denise Villeneuve's name down, so
I just
I
call him
should
Denny V. I don't even
have.
know.
But man, anything that guy does, like I will watch. Like I both loved a lot of things about that movie, but I did have some problems, and even with those problems, I would just say like it's refreshing to see certain filmmakers get to go out there and make movies, and with that guy specifically, like I feel robbed of not seeing some of his other films. I keep meaning to go back and watch Lighthouse, and I've heard about The Witch quite a bit, and I don't know. I need to go check those out because I went and saw The Northman in theaters, and I think I'm one of the few people that did. And I fucking love that movie so much, and it's a crime that not more people have seen that movie. And I think Nosferatu as well. Like there is some shit in that movie that Francis Ford Coppola probably went, "Oh man, if only." Like, but yeah, I like it quite a bit. I've got some reservations and some things I'll bring up, but I'd love to hear what you think as well first before I
Yeah.
go into that.
The Northman, I'm ashamed to say this, is the only one of his other movies that I've seen. I've still yet to see The Lighthouse, and I haven't seen The Witch either. Um, Not that I've heard bad things. I've been told to watch Lighthouse. I just haven't seen it yet. Um, and But I did really like Northman, and I had a pretty good feeling I was probably going to enjoy Nosferatu. I mean, it is like before I realized that I wanted to be a filmmaker and all that other stuff, when Coppola's Dracula was out, like I thought for sure at the time I was writing like Dracula short stories. And I remember being in the sixth grade and we're supposed to like make these little like puppet thingies out of paper mache. And it was going to be like, and I decided to do Dracula. So I made one of those. And I mean, so I've just been a fan of that kind of storyline and of that character. So I had a pretty good feeling I was enjoying Nosferatu quite a bit. So I fucking loved it actually. I liked it a lot. I walked out of the theater, uh, and there wasn't many people in it because I saw it as an early morning screener. And then when I walked out, I could hear this like family of adults. Like you could tell like an older man with his like adult like daughters or whatever, and they were like chatting about it. And I just walked past them, and I felt compelled to be like, that movie fucking rocked. And they were like, yeah, I did. And I was like, yeah. I was like, wow, yeah. Um, eh, yeah, I knew it was gonna be a slow burn. That's one thing. You kind of, if you kind of gather what the director does, like, it's gonna take its time. It's gonna have some of that nice slow pacing in it. Things gonna get really weird in a lot of other
Mhm.
spots. Um, I love like I think because you were talking about Francis Ford Coppola, like I love the staging of when the what's the actor's name who's the just main dude, just the real estate
Uh,
dude.
Nicholas Holt.
Yeah, Nicholas Holt. So Nicholas Holt is like he finally shows up at the castle and Nosferatu's telling him like, "Hey man, it's too late, but let's like sit down and have dinner anyways." And like there's probably like at least three different Nosferatus in that state in that one shot, but the way that they go in and out of the frame, it kind of like it's giving the illusion that Nosferatu was like 10 feet over here, but now he's like reaching past your shoulder now.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff that we was also done in Coppola's movie, but I think that what's happening in this movie is it's just a callback or it's an homage or it's like a love letter to that as well. Um, and so I don't know, I get giddy with that shit. There's the opening Um, the opening shot has some really amazing shadow effects that happen that are similar to what happens in Francis Ford Coppola's movie as well. Um, I don't know, man. It was just good. Yeah, I thought Johnny Depp's daughter was like really good.
Lily Depp.
Yeah,
Yeah, she does a
yeah.
really good job in that movie.
Yeah, she was like when she was doing the convulsing shit, she was like so pissed off, and then all of a sudden she started getting possessed at the same time and shit. You know, I think probably my biggest disappointment is I do miss the like the Nosferatu look a little
Yeah.
bit. I'm not completely put off by the mustache, but there's a part of me kind of goes like it would be nice to see that bald headed, goofy looking fucker with the two teeth kind of thing, but.
I
I think it's a small complaint overall for what the movie gave, though.
The creature effects are fucking spectacular, and I honestly like how Bill Skarsgård uh is just gross and amazing in that movie, like he always is, I think at this point. But I liked how like they it's pretty consistent what Dracula looks like or Nosferatu in this movie, and like it's got enough differences that I love it. I think what I have a hard time with is like from a filmmaking standpoint, love it. Shot choices. incredible. Like performances for the most part, I thought were awesome. And like I said, Robert Eggers or whatever his name is, like, man, I will watch anything that dude makes. Um, but for me, like I also go back to Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola, and I'm like, of all the movies you could remake, like I kind of wish like he would have put some effort into something different a little bit. And it's not to say that he made a bad movie. The movie's fantastic, and I'm not shitting on it. I kind of there's very few original voices, and I say that in his last movie that I did see, Northman, it's a Viking retelling of Hamlet, and it's
Yeah.
fucking awesome, and it's fresh enough too, just like this one is. It's fresh enough that it keeps it interesting. Like in Nosferatu versus Coppola's Dracula, it's much more. It feels much more grounded in reality. Uh, like like not to give anything away. I mean, I think most people would have seen it by now, but not to give anything away. But I like how instead of Anthony Hopkins' mad genius, where everybody's like, "Oh yeah, go on," like the same type of character is played by Willem Dafoe, and he's like half like crack addict, opium fiend, who's also like trying to he's like crackpot and trying to do alchemy and sorcery, and it's more grounded in reality of probably what that character would be like versus like the dream ideal state that is Coppola's movie, and I love both for different reasons. I love the practical effects of Nosferatu, but I think when it got done, I was like, awesome job. I even love the ending. I just kind of wish, like, out of all the subject matter out there, like, I miss like more original stories. Like, there's a lot of retreading, and I think that's maybe it's a personal hang up. I know it's a
Hmm.
personal failing.
No,
So,
it's understandable. So I heard from some other friends who, before I saw Nosferatu, they had said that they didn't like it. Um, and they didn't pinpoint necessarily what it was. They just said it was kind of like a narrative thing. And so I wonder. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I speculate. Like, and it makes me wonder as well with you, like, because so what we obviously know that Nosferatu, when it was originally made, was ripping off Dracula.
yeah,
But there's also like the storyline, however, differs in a few moments that are not Dracula.
sure.
And one of them is the ending of the original Nosferatu and the Dracula story. And I think that as this is a remake of this movie is a Nosferatu remake of Nosferatu and not of Dracula or Bram Stoker's Dracula. I go, so it makes me wonder because I had heard from somebody else, it was like, yeah, it was the ending, and I was surprised. But for me, because it's not Dracula, it's Nosferatu at this point. Like it's it's now like layered itself over enough times that it's like, no, like we're doing because it's the
No, and
third film, right?
I understand. Like I totally like I get that. In fact, I was explaining it to my wife. I think though, and I agree. I know that it's a remake. Hell, it was remade again in the 70s by Werner Herzog
Werner
with Klaus
Herzog.
Kinski. Yeah. But I think in this specific case, why I bring up Bram Stoker's Dracula is there are so many things in Nosferatu, the new one, that are aping or calling homage to
Which
Coppola.
are
Like
clearly, yeah,
yeah, I mean,
it
that's
is,
that that's
yeah.
what I mean. It's like I was like Coppola kind of already did that. I mean, this is awesome, but I was like, I kind of wish you would do. But there's things about this movie I think that are fresh enough. It's totally worth a watch. It's totally and honestly, like I enjoyed the movie a lot. I'll own it. I just think like I just kind of wish it would have been a little bit more, a little less tied to Coppola when he made it, like inspired by,
Yeah.
but Coppola, like there's, I think that if it's been a minute since I've saw it, but there's the moon shot in Nosferatu when I watched it. There's a practical effect I was like, fuck, man, Coppola's probably like just pissed off that he didn't get his shot to look that good. Like that's the thought I had while I was in the theater. And that being said, like unlike you, like I saw mine in downtown Seattle, and I saw it a couple weeks after it had been released. But I'll tell you what, the movie house was packed at like 8 at night, and it was actually refreshing to see a movie with an audience again, to the point where I was like, I just miss this. Like I miss being able
Mhm.
to see a movie with an audience because I get it, people have different interests, and times are different. But I, when I say those things, it's almost like it's all I feel like I'm nitpicking a little bit because there's so much great in that movie, but I did kind of walk away going like I can't quite give it my like 10 out like a 10
Mhm.
star like perfect film because I feel like there's a little bit of a crutch of Bram Stoker's Dracula through the thing, even though it's funny. It's in the world of remakes and ripoffs, like it's totally both.
So that
But the acting's
there's
amazing.
yeah.
It's a fantastic film.
One thing, so I don't know why, but the Rainfield character has always been a character I've hated in any iteration of Dracula. Um, I've always been, I don't know why, I hate this fucking insane dude who's in a asylum kind of a thing. This one I loved. I liked, I don't know why. I think it's because to me, one of the narrative pieces for me that's always been a hiccup is that like, I think in the original Dracula tale, the reason why like the Keanu Reeves character or the Nick Holt character is going is because they'd already sent a real estate lawyer originally, Rainfield, and he gets possessed and then comes back. And then with that, they're like, oh, well, send Keanu Reeves now or whatever. In this case, the Rainfield character is being he never went, and he's just being possessed already.
Yeah,
And in fact, his order to send Keanu Reeves there is part of that possession. And so, and I liked how like narratively, I thought that was a shorter cut to or made more sense than the way it's always been told. I do like some of the there's like a I swear it's a Texas switch. I don't know what it is if it's not CGI, but like there's a moment where they're like in fact I hate the Rainfield character so much that when that movie with Nick Holt came out where he was Rainfield and it had Nick Cage as Dracula, I just the character line I hated. I didn't want to see the movie. Now that movie actually is pretty good. But
hmm.
um I did like it. But in Nosferatu, this one, there's a moment where like I don't know the actor's name, anyways. He's in Moulin Rouge and some other stuff, but like he's holding a bird for a minute, and like you can see the bird like doing the twitchy. Now I don't know if it's a real bird or if it's some CGI shit or whatever. His hand goes out of frame just for a second, and he comes back and he rips the bird's head off with his teeth. And I feel like there's a moment where like someone else hands he's either dropping it and grabbing something else, you know. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of like what you can tell in Nosferatu is that the shots are planned and there's a lot of trickery that's happening on the screen in the frame, like that where it's like you're holding something live, and then within seconds you have something else you bite its head off, and it just creates that effect. But but
I
I'm not
mean,
saying I'm not
effects
saying
are
it's the best
awesome.
movie of the year, like by any means.
Sure.
I'm just saying I dug it like a lot. So and it made me want to I don't know like Shadow of Vampire. Maybe want to go back and watch Bram Stoker's. I was like, just revisit it. I don't. So
I mean, like like I said, I'm totally on board with anything he wants to do. In fact, like uh I'm not doing it tonight, but I think this week I need to just get it off my mental queue and just put on the Lighthouse because the thing I think what I like so much about him as a director is like you can kind of tell when like going back to I don't want this to be a complaint fest, but going back to the film festival things, like I said, sometimes I feel like there's no soul in what some people shoot. They may be making a film for the wrong reasons or whatnot. But you can tell when somebody's been inspired by something else to make to make a movie, and they have very distinct visuals in mind. And Robert Eggers very much a visual director in that sense. And I remember I've read about it for a long time, and my wife has think a minor in art history. But I was telling her about I haven't seen the movie, but I've read enough about it. Like there's a shot in that it directly references a painting, and seeing like I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen that specific frame paired up against like the painting that it's playing back with, and like yeah, just
Which movie?
man, it's for the lighthouse. There's
Oh,
a
for the lighthouse. Oh yeah,
yeah
it's like where the character's like beaming light or something like
yeah
that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the painting, yeah.
you know what I'm talking about yeah.
Yeah. Or I've seen the drawing, whatever, however the illustration is, yeah.
That's I mean that's where I think like some of the, like how could you not be inspired by Coppola, you know,
Hmm.
remaking a vampire movie of that caliber. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I love his stuff. I am gonna go back and revisit definitely Lighthouse probably this next week, but and I'll report back on it for the next time. And then yeah, so I saw that. I also saw A Complete Unknown, and I know you haven't seen it. I would say like if you're interested in the subject matter and you like James Mangold, totally see A Complete Unknown. Like the performances, I think are awesome. Shot choices too. Like James Mangold's like underappreciated. Like he's done some amazing movies that I think like I was.
Hmm.
It blows me away that 310 to Yuma was not like more
Oh
successful.
god, yeah, 310 to Yuma. He's um I'll let you get back to your point, but like you were mentioning going to see Nosferatu in a packed movie house, and uh one of James Mangold's movies is Ford versus Ferrari,
Oh
and
man,
that movie's fantastic as well. But like when we saw it in theaters, it was packed. I mean, it was, you know, 400 people. And I remember going like, God, I'm so glad to see like people at a movie that has like no, it's not a sequel. There's not a comic book background. There's not a novelization background. Like it just looked like a kick-ass movie. And it was a kick-ass movie because it delivers, because James Mangold, for the most part, delivers. I mean, you know, when you're looking at Logan, 310 to Yuma, Kate and Leopold, um, kind
I
of,
mean,
kind of joking
Night
about
and
that last.
Day,
I like
Night
Night
and
and
Day
Day.
is
Fuck.
man
Like,
that for you know being a popcorn film like that movie's a lot of fun and
yeah,
entertaining as hell and
yeah.
like the guy's just I think underappreciated
And he did
as a
another
director.
buyout movie, Walk the Line,
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah,
Anyways, but I digress. You and I saw Bob Dylan twice,
yeah,
in concert, so of course I love the subject matter. But um, continue with you know your thoughts on the
yeah. I
movie.
mean, see, like it's cool. I think I had a like that Timothy Chalamet or again I'm terrible with names. Everybody, yeah, I
I just call him
apologize, but
Timmy. You know, that's how we
yeah,
text.
Tim-
Yeah.
Timothy. Yeah, he does an awesome job. I think he learned how to play guitar and emulate and sing, and it pays off. I like when it's like with Walk the Line, like because it's the actor's voice, like you don't feel that disconnect when it's on screen, right? But they redid like throughout the movie, it's subtle and not subtle at the same time. But there'll be moments where something will be happening in the movie and it's like a snapshot out of like Bob Dylan's album cover or whatnot, and
Oh,
you can
cool.
see it in that moment. And you're like, ah, I see what you did there, and that's cool. Like it's both subtle and it's like it's uh, it's subtle, but it's also it's explicitly there.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. So it was a I enjoyed it quite a bit. I took my two youngest kids because they dig music, and I thought, you know, hey, and it really is. It's got a ton of music. It is it's entertaining. I wouldn't take it as gospel as far as Bob Dylan's life, but Bob Dylan's life's a mystery as much as anything else. Like it's worth watching for the performances. Like Timothy is Bob Dylan's awesome. Chick who plays Joan Baez is great. Um, Dakota Fanning does an awesome job in it, and then the guy who plays Johnny Cash, like he's kind of like a character actor. In fact, he's in James Mangold's Logan movie as like the main
Oh, really?
Main bad guy. Yeah,
It's
I
the
think he's also
Indiana
in
Jones
Predator.
5.
I don't remember. It's the blonde-haired dude that's
Yeah,
like he's got the yeah, they put a
the mechanical arm and Logan. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, he's awesome as Johnny Cash. It's entertaining like and it's almost like when I was watching it with the kids, it's almost like watching probably Forrest Gump for me because like there's so many like there's references to the Kennedy assassination or like Malcolm X and just like some of the things that are happening in real time, like in real time in the movie. It's like, yeah, man, like I've read about a lot of those things, never lived them, but for me, like I've experienced enough life now, and they're going like, why is that? Oh, the Cuban Missile Crisis and how people are reacting to it at that time, right? It's
Yeah.
very interesting and an interesting way for them kind of to see examples of history.
Hmm.
But definitely worth checking out. Like, as far as like substance goes, like I didn't walk away from it going like, oh, the greatest movie of all time. Like it is a lot of flash isn't necessarily the right word, but it's a lot of entertainment. It's not meant to be, it's not meant to. It's not like King's Speech, right, where it felt like it was made for just being an Academy Award like nominee. Like that's
Hmm.
what King's Speech feels like to me when I watch that piece of fucking shit.
Oh shit.
Uh, but the
I hope his
performance,
Oscar burned in the fire.
yeah, I know. Yeah, but the performances like are worth watching. Like the movie's a journey and a thrill ride, and it's also interesting to see like it would be interesting to see how somebody would go from being like this unknown person to the Beatles basically overnight, and it goes like from being him being discovered and then the journey and it's I think it's in the trailers like him going electric is part of the journey too, and thinking about like what I know about reading about musical history but then seeing representations of it and be like, yeah, some of my kids are like, why is everybody so upset? It's like Bob Dylan's going electric and he's not supposed to. So it was interesting. I mean, like that's kind of how Bob Dylan is still. Like when we went and saw him, I think it's been like
Wait a minute, yeah.
15 plus years ago. I mean, he never touched a guitar the entire time. I think he played piano a couple times and he played a harmonica. He never touched a guitar, and I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I was just like, wow, like folk hero Bob Dylan not touching a guitar. It's kind of yeah. Yeah, so you watch the movie. I think like having seen Bob Dylan, a little bit about him through reading about him and stuff through the years. Like it's interesting. It's a lot of fun, and as much as it's fictionalized, it feels kind of close to yeah, yeah. But it's also James Mangold, so everybody should go see the original filmmaker
Mhm.
and their movies in theaters as much as you can. So
No, I definitely
yeah,
want to check that one out. I love James Mangold, so
yeah.
quite a bit.
It's not a sequel. Like, yeah, it's a biopic, so you kind of have a gateway into it, but I don't know. It's interesting. Like, uh, I've gone back and revisited a couple of movies from the mid 2000s now, and just seeing some stuff that felt original for the time. Like, and watching it with I did not watch Insomnia with my kids. I want to state that for the record, but I watched that again the other night. Fell in love with like it's wild seeing Christopher Nolan make a movie that's not like so huge in scale, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not recreating the atom bomb explosion, but the things he does in that movie are fantastic, and it feels fresh to revisit
Hmm.
that movie now. Or I did actually show my kids, and I recommend you do the same thing. Is Super 8 like
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
movie?
yeah. Yeah, I haven't shown him that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's got kids, so they're half
Yeah,
interested in it. They're making
yeah,
films. Your kids would really be interested in it,
like yeah,
and
yeah. They're burning through Stranger Things. They started yesterday.
yeah,
They
it's
hadn't
awesome.
they hadn't seen it before, and I've only seen the first season. But that being said, now that they're into the kids things, Super 8, and I'm reading. I just started it 2 days ago. Josh Brolin's book, From Under a Truck, and so he's talking about the Goonies, and is this it's his biography book. And my kids haven't seen the Goonies, so
Oh wow,
so if we're gonna do the Super 8 Stranger Things, might as well throw in the Goonies as well.
yeah, you gotta show
But
them where it all comes from.
yeah, they've seen Monster Squad, but it'll be okay. We can revisit that one too as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Super 8. Like, I recommend going back and just again, like, it's not a sequel. It's not a property that's been like mined to death. Like, you go back and rewatch it and just J.J. Abrams shot choices and man, I love the lens flare. Like, and there's a lot of
Hmm.
it, but man, it is. It's just magic. It really is. Like he did an amazing job. And Elle Fanning in that movie, who's also in
There's
Complete
also
Unknown.
yeah, completely
Yeah,
unknown. Yeah,
Elle Fanning. I think I said Dakota earlier. Sorry.
you did. I didn't want to
She.
correct you. I let the internet do that for you for me.
So yeah, like she does like for yeah, the movie's just awesome. I don't want to
Yeah.
gush over it
You
anymore,
were
but
saying, what did you say you watched with the kids though? Oh, did you say you watched Super 8 or
yeah, I
okay,
showed
that's the
Super
one
8
you
to the
okay.
kids. Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, I would like to show them Stranger Things. I showed them the first episode, and they were kind of like, "Oh, like I really want to show you guys Alien, so we can." I've seen Aliens. It's a little bit more action packed. It's less of a slow burn, and I think
Hmm.
because it's more action, it's also a little less scary, right? But
Yeah.
um, one of these days, maybe we can rip off the Band-Aid and they can watch Alien, so I can sneak in Romulus or Prometheus or something. I don't know. I want them to be kids. I want them to be kids, obviously too. But it's fun watching something like Super 8. Like was there's a lot at stake in that movie as well, right?
Hmm.
It's a dangerous movie. Like I like we've talked about before. I don't think I'm here, but just in general, like when you, I think one of the reasons like King's Speech is not exciting is like there's no everything's predetermined, right? Like you
Yeah.
know what the outcome is before you see the final frame. So there's never anything in danger. There's never anything like at stake, really. You just go through the motions and you get to the end, and then that was the journey of it.
Hmm.
And with a movie like Super 8, like there there is danger from the beginning of that movie. Like the kids are making a movie, and then all of a sudden you see something happen, and extreme amounts of danger, and the like, and you even later in the movie, like people start like dying off that are not main characters, but you didn't expect that to happen.
Uh-huh.
You don't know what's going to happen. So, in fact, like what would be interesting, what I'd recommend doing too is what's fascinating is I showed the kids a bunch of trailers before we picked the movie, and the original trailer for Super 8, I forgot, like it actually shows the main, it shows the main derailment of the train from an angle that's not in the movie. Like
Oh,
it's
interesting.
none of the footage is in the movie, and it's all from like the perspective of the truck rather than the kids. And it's I don't know, it's awesome, but it's also, I mean, much of J.J. Abrams is this way, but it's like the most Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
It's like the best Spielberg movie of the last 20 years. How about that? Like it's it's totally just homage and ripping off like certain things like the Spielberg oneer, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like wide, then two shot, then close up. All those shot choices and whatnot are just they're Spielberg, but it's done fluid and flawlessly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fitting that we say that because we're talking about how Edgar's film is so much Coppola at the same time. Not kind of
Yeah.
speaking of because of the J.J. Abrams films, and I mean how he does have a bit of a Spielberg flair to him and across the board, but that one is his most Spielberg-esque movie
Yeah.
for sure because it's like heightened ET or
Close
in
Encounters.
yeah, in Close Encounters, like yeah, definitely.
Yeah. With the lens flare of Minority Report.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Groovy. Well, I think before we sign off, like like there just from I know we talked about the Utah International Film Festival and whatnot, and just in keeping with like I know we talk successes, we talk about the art form which we love as well.
Yeah. Tell us what's going on with
Everything
you, man.
well, so one of the Page International Screenwriting Awards, like I've put in my scripts, Edgewater and Obsession to that. We'll see. You know, it's early
Nice.
deadlines. We'll see what happens. But I attended the head of the festival, like did a thing with a local writers group and trying to get more network more, locally because
Hmm.
most of my most of my resources all live in Utah still, so it's nice to have some local filmmakers that are close. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of stuff going on my side. Hadn't realized it or met them, but the lady who runs the Page International Screenwriting Awards came to a local like on a Zoom call on a local event and talked about it, and it was interesting because a lot of she talked about being thoughtful about it, and I mean we've talked about it as well. Like sometimes you want to get the most bang for your buck, and yeah, it
Hmm.
is. Sometimes it is good to get into the smaller festivals as well. But something got brought up on that call that I thought was interesting for me, and I'd share it with you and for Chaz because I mean it was one of the questions he asked. Is that the blacklist gets brought up a lot, right? And somebody had like they kind of explained how the blacklist works on there. And if anybody out there's done it and I'm misrepresenting it, feel free to like and subscribe and then comment.
Like, subscribe, and
comment.
provide the hate.
um, Ref me every time, man. Um, but they talked about you actually have to like pay to host it on the blacklist. And then what happens is like as you pay to like submit to different things or have different people read it, it it like impacts the score in a way that can be like yes, it can pay off handsomely and you get more exposure, but like it's almost like I submit to these other screenwriting festivals, like they'll either accept me or they won't, right? Or and they will also like provide feedback and I can help me take with a grain of salt what's working, what's not, and then also go, nope, that's artistic and my choice. But the thing it doesn't do is like I pay to host it on there, right? And so if I pay to host it and submit it a couple times, then like you're still paying to host it on there, but you get like one bad review and now you're buried at the bottom and you're paying to have it on there where it's not going to be loved. And to be honest, like in some cases, maybe it doesn't deserve to be loved, but it seems like a really big risk. But they're all very much all about like when it was very much helpful outside of a lot of other festivals and competitions. So the Page International Screenwriting Awards, I'd recommend checking it out. And one of the things they actually recommend, which also might be interesting to you, and you should dust off the one you feed, your script that you've got sitting around, is they talk about, I don't know what it costs, but one of the prizes is like getting free pitches on a service called VPF. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
I have to check and see like what it costs like normally, but like you can actually like it's a platform apparently to connect writers and whatnot with people who are looking to buy scripts and pitches, and to agents as well. I think like we keep talking about, it's kind of secret sauce. And like there's certain movies like we were talking like Obsession. I really want to
Hmm.
make that movie. I'd like to make it with more than just kind of my normal budget, and make it as polished as possible. But like Edgewater, um, I still love the movie I wrote there. But if it was like, hey, you could sell something to get exposure, like more okay
Yeah.
with maybe burning one of those. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So not burning it, but try like taking a gamble, something of that
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool.
So anyway, I just wanted to share like those some of those insights and kind of go from kind of let you know, and then as well as like yes, answer some of the questions we've been getting flooding in. So
Hmm.
you know, I want to make sure that everybody out there, the dozens and dozens of fans, are getting what they want. You know, a little bit of education, a little of enjoyment and humor, and
Hmm.
guidance from my personal failings. So. Also, there's a, I don't know if the timing's gonna work out, but there's a kind of a local, where I guess we're based out of the 47th parallel up this area, and so they're like, it's a 47.7 hour film festival to celebrate the, latitude and longitude, I guess, whatever. Um, I thought about maybe Smith, like normally family friendly fare, as we've talked about, is not my
Hmm.
normal thing, but I thought about like getting the kids to enter it to see if there's some interest there. I'd like to get them
Yeah.
on a set again,
Yeah.
but it would be just me, so it would be going out and filming for 6 hours and then holding up for 2 days and editing and putting sound to it and all that other stuff. But just want to get them back in the show them the magic of doing it and
Hmm.
yeah, dusting some of the skills off more than
Yeah.
anything.
That's
So
cool.
yeah,
No, for sure.
well, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Oh boy. Not much, man. Yeah, I think I pretty much called it all good. You can at the moment, let's see, check out our Ogden Cinema YouTube channel, which hopefully you're watching this on there as well. But you'll see a whole list of all the short films that we put together. Trailers for our feature films as well are available there, and then a lot of behind the scenes content. We've been trying to upload a lot more behind the scenes, how we do things. If you have anything you love or hate, man, please just let us know. I'm always down for a hate comment, so you just so there are a few of you out there who have hate commented and said so recently, so last month, if you follow BJ Wimpy on YouTube as well, he does Senator Palpatine cosplay, and we did a video. I shot it on an iPhone 11. It's a Christmas video. It's a Star Wars Christmas parody where he's to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But in our YouTube channel, Going Cinema, I posted a short that was it was like a time lapse of us filming it. And I mean, it didn't take maybe 2 hours before Chaz's sister said, like, that's stupid. And I was like, and Jason and I have kids, so there's times where we have to prepare them for this like social media world that they grow up in that we didn't really have, like when we were growing up. And so, I showed the kids, I was like, see that? I was like, this happens to dad all the time. Like somebody is saying that's stupid, and I just go, yeah, I'm glad you liked it. So,
Yeah.
or didn't
Uh,
like it enough that you said something. So. Yeah, so
hey
check out
man.
our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook as well, and also on Instagram. All of it under New Ogden Cinema. And if you're an indie filmmaker and you have some questions on how, I'm pretty sure him and I, between of all the things that we've done, we can tell you how to not do it. So for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing too, like just to thank our ongoing sponsors of Great White Pottery and also Tasty as Fuck. Yeah, yeah. And then an eternal sponsor who just like really great people, really great, really a gem in Utah as far as like local business people that are very supportive of a lot of things and who just are great people and make fantastic alcohol at New World Distillery. Like check
Mhm.
out World Distillery. They were heavily featured in my feature film and probably hands down the best small batch whiskey I've ever had, and it made me a believer in gin. So that's always fun. So as long as you're not on the wagon or off the wagon, I can't remember which one I've fallen off of. Like I highly recommend them if you're looking for something fun to check out and taste in Utah. That's always a blast. And as always, just we'll be here waiting and feel
Catch you
free
next
to,
time.
yeah, feel free to send all the hate you want.